Hi, welcome to Driver Training. In today's video, we're going to talk about doing a briefing for roundabouts. Before we go into it, can I just say though, one of the ways that trainees get marked down on the ADI Part 3 and for instructors, the ADI Standards Check, is they say, today, Chris, we're going to do roundabouts. Roundabouts isn't a subject. You need to be specific. Okay, so when you think of roundabouts, there are many different facets, many different types of roundabout. So for instance, it's like someone saying to me, okay, Chris, what I'm going to do is teach you to become a builder. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to teach me to do brickwork? Does it mean you're going to teach me carpentry and woodwork? Are you going to teach me plumbing? Are you going to teach me electrics? Are you going to teach me to put tiles on a roof? Because being a builder has many different aspects and facets to it. You couldn't just say, I'm going to teach you to become a builder. Which part of it? And the same is true with roundabouts. So when you say roundabouts, do you mean a normal roundabout? Do you mean mini roundabouts? Do you mean laned or spiral roundabouts? Then what exactly are we going to focus on? Are you going to teach me how to identify roundabouts? Are you going to teach me to pick the correct lane and lane choice on roundabouts? Are you going to teach me to deal with double mini roundabouts? Are you going to teach me speed and lane position around roundabouts? What is it that you're going to teach me? You need to be specific. What we don't want to say is we're going to do roundabouts. That is too vague a subject, and it really doesn't say what we're going to focus on. But in our briefing video now, we're going to show you pretty much every aspect of all three, so that you could think, well, today we did normal size roundabouts on our last lesson. So this week we're going to focus, Chris, on mini roundabouts because they're different. And with the ADI Part 3, what will happen is the trainees will do a route that includes normal roundabouts. But some will be closed junctions, some will be open, some will have 2 lanes, some will have 3 lanes. Then we turn the corner and suddenly we're into mini roundabouts. Now, mini roundabouts, you don't pick what lane 9 times out of 10. There's only one lane, you just follow it. With a normal roundabout, you can help them to judge a safe gap. With a mini roundabout, you can't, because as we'll show you in the video, there are very many times when people either, when they're turning right or going straight at mini roundabouts, either just drive over the top of them or they miss them out completely. Now, they're not going to do that on a normal size roundabout. With a laned roundabout, a spiral roundabout, you've got traffic lights. So it's not as important if there's traffic coming from the right as it would be on a normal roundabout, because you're controlled by traffic lights. You could have traffic lights and a yellow box junction. So even though the light says green, you still can't go because you can't clear the yellow box junction. You're probably not going to face that on a mini roundabout. And then there are the odd occasion, as there is one in Shrewsbury, where there's a roundabout where you give way to the left and the traffic coming up from the left has priority. You won't find that most other places. So you've got to think what's unique to you, but what aspect of that roundabout are we going to focus on? Because the normal, the mini, the spiral all have different ways of doing them, all are treated differently, and so all have to be covered. What we need to do is think, well, actually, did I give them a briefing on all three? But for your route planning for the ADI Part 3 and ADI Standards Check, Can you focus on one type of roundabout at a time? If they're just getting used to roundabouts, are there 3 or 4 big ones that you can do, normal size roundabouts? If you're focusing on mini roundabouts, are there 3 or 4 of them? Or are you going, well, it's a normal roundabout, it's big, wide, open and empty, keep going. Then all of a sudden you come to a mini roundabout and you haven't told the pupil there's a change, a different way of doing it. Now the car coming from the right is only 6-10 feet away from you. And suddenly you're saying, stop, why are you going? Well, there's a car there. Well, there was a car at the last one, but you let me go. Different aspects to them. So just to say roundabouts isn't good enough. We need to be specific. We're going to focus on normal size roundabouts. We're going to focus on mini roundabouts. Today, Chris, we're going to focus on spiral roundabouts. And then what's the difference? Got to be specific in what we say is the lesson plan and how we give the briefings to our students. Enjoy the video. Hi, welcome to Driver Training Limited. In today's video, we're going to show you how to do a briefing for roundabouts that includes normal roundabouts, mini roundabouts and laned roundabouts. Now you just need to choose the one that is relevant to your pupil for the roundabouts that you're going to go and work on. So before we do that, what does the highway code say about roundabouts? Well, it says if we're going left, signal left and use the left-hand lane. If we're going right, it says signal right and approach in the right-hand lane. For any intermediate exit, choose the lane that is the most appropriate on approach. So there are variations, there are different road markings and signs. However, the picture that accompanies it clearly shows that if you're going straight ahead, it's the left-hand lane. It doesn't say left or right, it specifically shows that straight ahead would be left-hand lane, unless the road markings or signs said different. Now let's look at the DVSA's book, Driving the Essential Skills, written by the driving examiners. What does this say when it comes to roundabouts? Because we should know this book really well. Well, do you notice it says there, when going left, we indicate left and approach in the left-hand lane, which is what the highway code says. What about going right? Well, at the bottom, going right, approach in the right-hand lane. So that leaves, what about going ahead? Well, here it's very specific. Driving the Essential Skills, the 2023 version says going ahead, approach in the left-hand lane. However, if you can't use the left-hand lane because, for example, it's blocked, use the lane next to it. But other than that, it is very specific, both in the highway code with the picture, straight ahead is left-hand lane, or in Driving the Essential Skills, going ahead, approach in the left lane. So with that in mind then, let's look at our briefing folder. As always, the first thing we do, the box on the left, is recap or ask their experience. Have they done roundabouts before? This might be their first lesson on it. You may have kind of covered it with doing left and right turns and emerges, but you've talked them all the way through it. Or it might be someone who's come from a different instructor. Do they know how to deal with things? If that's the case and they've done it before, you can ask the questions at the bottom to find out the depth of their knowledge. For instance, okay then, Chris, do you know which way we give priority to on roundabouts? Are you confident with what lane you should be in on roundabouts? 9 times out of 10, they'll probably say, well, I'm not too sure, to be honest. You know, they could say, well, my dad says first and second exit is left lane, anything else is right-hand lane. So what we want to do is find out the depth of their knowledge first and then we can help them from that point. But we're going to presume that the person today has no previous experience. So as always, the next part is setting the goals for today's lesson. So by the end of today's lesson, you should be able to identify a roundabout and understand the rules of priority, apply the MSPS GL routine on approach to it, and go ahead, left and right, positioning and signaling correctly on approach and when exiting the roundabout. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing we need to do is identify there's a roundabout coming up. Now, most times roundabouts will have signs before them, like you can see on the page on the right there. They can be the normal large directional signs, or like in the background of the top picture and the triangle on the right there, they could just be triangular warning signs telling you there's one coming up. Sometimes you may not even have one. So the only way you can tell is the black and white chevrons and the blue and white one-way arrow sign. But then we need to figure out, is it an open junction or a closed junction? Just like we did when we were merging left and right, because if it's a closed junction, like the one in this picture, we know we're probably going to have to come up and either go very slowly or stop before seeing if it's clear and we can go. However, if it's a big, wide, open roundabout and you can see clearly that it is empty, then you are okay to keep going. So now we've identified our roundabout, we've got to think, well, who has priority? And that is vehicles coming round to our right. So have they come from the junction ahead and are coming round? Are they coming in from a junction on the right? But this also has to be balanced with how far away they are from us as well. So it's not just a case of seeing a car on the right and stopping, but we'll come more to that in a bit. So then the next part, choosing the lane that we want to go on to. How do we know? Well, there's an easy way to figure that out. As a general guideline, we think of the roundabout as a clock. 3, 6, 9 and 12, and we split it down the middle. If the exit that we want is 12 o'clock or before, we go in the left lane. If the exit that we want is after 12, we go in the right lane, unless the road markings or the signs say different, because we will find variations to this as we go round. And that's why in this example, although he's taking the fourth exit, it's at 12 o'clock, so we know left-hand lane. So with that in mind, let's go back to our original picture. On this one, if we're taking the second exit, which lane would we be in, Chris? Oh, right. In this example, second exit would be, left-hand lane? Yeah, because it's before the 12 o'clock position. In this example, Chris, second exit, that would be right-hand lane because it's after 12. Good, well done. And in our final example at the top there, third exit, that would be left-hand lane because it's at 12 o'clock. Well done, Chris. Now it's on this part of the briefing you can start getting the pupil more involved. You can go more to question and answer because of turning left and right, emerging left and right. They've already done the MSPS GL routine. So now we've identified the roundabout, we've identified whether it's an open or closed one, we've chosen the lane that we need to get into, so how do we deal with it? Well, on approach, if we're taking the first exit on the left, we use our routine as usual. So mirrors. Can you remember which mirrors we used on the left turn, Chris? Center and left. Yes. What were we checking the left mirror for? For any vehicles or bikes or scooters coming up the inside of us? That's correct, yes. And when we think of how busy roundabouts become, do you think there's more chance of that happening or less? Oh, definitely more. So do you think it becomes more important to check those mirrors? Yes, definitely. Then what comes next in our routine after the mirrors, Chris? Oh, we signal. Well done. Our position for left turns, just normal driving position. Yeah, so again, same with the first exit. Our speed, well, that depends on if it's an open or closed junction, but generally we'd perhaps be down to 15 miles an hour, perhaps a little less, but we'll discuss that as we go through. What gear do you think we should be in? Well, normally a left turn is second, isn't it? Yeah. So generally, if we can see it's clear, it would probably be second gear. If not, then we know we're going to have to stop and go into first. Then we look. So where's our first look going to be on approach to the roundabout? Well, we want to be looking right, don't we? Well, we do want to glance right, Chris, but what we don't want to do is stare to the right, because realistically, if we've got traffic in front of us, that's going to take priority, because there's no good looking and thinking, oh, I can go, if the car in front of us has stopped and isn't going. So on approach, we can glance to the right, look back, glance to the right again, then look back ahead of us. We also want to look into the junction that we're going to go into. Is there a queue of traffic there? Which it means if we go, we're actually going to block the roundabout. So we want to be taking all of this in before we decide whether to go or not. For the second exit, because in this case it's before 12 o'clock, we know we keep in the left-hand lane, we follow that left curb round, and it's once we're halfway past the first exit, that's when we would do our mirrors, then signal to let everybody know we're coming off, then follow it round to the second exit. In this instance, for the third exit, is that before 12 or after, Chris? Before. So which lane? Left. Very good. Then we're going to count round, keeping in the left lane, following the left curb, and count exit number 1. Once we're halfway past exit number 2, which mirrors are we going to check? Oh, centre and left. And signal? Yes, left. Very good. Because again, we know we're going that way, but nobody else does. And in this instance, fourth exit, is that 12 o'clock or before, Chris? Oh, it's on 12. So which lane? Left. Very good. So again, we keep in that left-hand lane, because remember at this point, we can have cars at the side of us who are going right. We keep in the left lane as normal, follow the left curb round, count exit number 1, exit number 2. Once we're halfway past exit number 3, then we do our mirrors and signal to let everybody know we're going to come off at the next exit. And it's normally at this point they go, well, I need to signal even if I'm coming straight ahead. Well, yes, Chris. My dad never does. No, perhaps he doesn't, but that is what we need to do. After all, we've all been the pedestrian in the middle waiting to cross, and there's a car coming round and we don't know which way they're going. By having a signal on, it helps them. It also helps any traffic coming the other way, because they don't know where we're going. And in fact, we'll have it. At some point, we'll come up to the roundabout, there'll be a car coming round. They won't have a signal on, so we'll stop, and then they just come off at that exit anyway. And we'll go, oh, thanks, mate, thanks for signalling. But if that car had have had a signal on and his position was the same, we would have known he was going down that exit, so it would have helped us to keep going. So even if we're going straight ahead, by explaining how a signal helps, we can help the pupil understand not only does it help pedestrians, but it'll also help other road users and therefore the flow of traffic. So now let's go on to going right at a roundabout. So when we turned right, Chris, when we emerged right, what was the first mirrors we checked? Oh, centre and right. Good. Our signal, up for right. Then our position. We were over by the centre white line. Yeah, so it's exactly the same with roundabouts. We've just got to look at where the lanes open up and then go into that same position again. And where did we say we look? Oh, we glance right, look back ahead, glance right, look back ahead. Yes. So then, once we see it is clear to go, we go across towards the roundabout. We get close to it. If you like, we hug it. We keep it close and we stay in that right lane all the way around. Now, if you notice on this one, we keep the signal on from the beginning, and that's telling people that we're coming all the way round, because now for all those entrances that are on our left, we are on those people's right hand side, so they should, in theory, give way to us. Our speed will depend on whether it's an open or closed roundabout, but generally about 10 to 15 miles an hour, depends what traffic is there. Our gear, what gear again? Probably second. Yeah, to begin with, second. If it's a very big roundabout, then we could probably do it in third, but we'll go through that again later. So now then, one of the things that people find the most difficult about roundabouts is judging a safe gap on the roundabout. How can we teach that on the ADI part 3? So by keeping our signal on, we're letting them know we're going all the way around, don't jump out on me. And we use the same routine that we did before. We count the exits, so we count 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we're going off at number 5, once we're halfway past number 4, which mirrors do we check, Chris? Centre and left. And do we signal down? Yes. And then the position is across to by the left-hand curb. Now, if it is a dual carriageway, a 2-lane road, and there is something slower moving like a tractor or a bus, then we can accelerate, keep in the right-hand lane. But again, on the ones we're about to do, it will just be coming off by that left-hand curb. Well, what we have found over the years works really well is just to think of that roundabout as a clock. If the car coming around it is at or before the 3 o'clock position, then generally we have enough time to go. However, if the car coming towards us is at or past that 3 o'clock position, then it's better to stop there and wait. The final thing to take into account with roundabouts is traffic on the roundabout. We can't pull out onto the roundabout if it's going to block anybody else. So as we look ahead, we can see the queue of traffic, we can see where the police car is. There is actually enough room for him to stop there. The red car can then move across, go round the roundabout. He's not actually blocking anybody in. However, we couldn't then go round and pull up behind the police car, because it would mean then that people couldn't get off at that exit. So in effect, we're blocking the roundabout. So in this instance, it's better to wait at the broken white line, wait for it to clear, and then go. So now then, let's move on to mini roundabouts. Mini roundabouts are different in the fact that everything is closer. So we know large vehicles like buses and lorries can't get round mini roundabouts. They're going to go the opposite way round them. To be honest, most cars will sometimes go the wrong way. Your pupils will watch the car in front. They'll do the same thing. This was the end of their test at that point. And again, the vehicle in front just the wrong way round the mini roundabout. And they can't do that on normal roundabouts. So again, there's a different way to think and react at mini roundabouts. So again, in our briefing folder with the recap and experience, have they done normal size roundabouts? Well, a lot of what we're going to do today on mini roundabouts will be the same, but there will be differences because the gap between vehicles is reduced. The fact that people don't always go around the roundabout means we can't use the normal 3 o'clock or before principle to judge a safe gap on the roundabout. So although there are a lot of things in common, we have to treat mini roundabouts a lot differently to normal size roundabouts. So how do we do it? Well, we need to identify them. There can be give way signs before mini roundabouts. There are blue discs which signify mini roundabouts. Sometimes those can be hidden by bushes and trees. So very often we'll have the white line, broken white line across the road. That again denotes that there's a mini roundabout. The next thing we need to then assess, as we would do on a normal roundabout, is it an open junction or a closed junction? Because that's going to determine what we do. Now, one of the main mistakes people make on ADI Part 3s and standards check tests is to say at every mini roundabout we come to, we're going to be doing 10 miles an hour. And that's not true. Let me show you a real life example. So here, as we come down on the left, you've got the highlighted sign telling you there's a roundabout. In the distance, you can see on the left the blue circle telling us it's a mini roundabout. Now, as we approach to the right, that is a big, wide, open roundabout. You can see the roundabout by the white car is actually offset. So to drive straight ahead at this particular mini roundabout means you're not even turning the wheel. You are physically just driving in a straight line. So you can stay, technically, if you know it's clear, at 25 to 30 miles an hour. Because it's wide, it's open, it's clear. You're not turning the steering wheel an inch, you're just driving in a straight line. So to say to your pupil, it's a mini roundabout, you need to slow down to 10 miles an hour, in this instance, is completely untrue and wrong. So on your marking sheet, was the technical information given correct? No, because as you can see, this pupil here, although they slowed down to 15, the car didn't even move. Now let's have a look at in our folder at an example of a closed junction. Now in the bottom right-hand picture, we're looking at the mini roundabout. Is that a closed junction? Do we have buildings, bushes, brickwork? Yes. The most we can see is the one car length of the car that's already waiting on the right. As we said, the blue car is actually cutting across the mini roundabout as well. But more importantly, we can't see what's coming down that road to the right and how quickly. So the only thing we can do in this instance is come up to the white line, stop, look to make sure it's clear, and then go. So these are the two differences that you can face, because again, to tell me at this particular roundabout I should be doing 10 miles an hour, again, is totally wrong. So the speed that we do on mini roundabouts, although generally if we're going straight ahead, yes, it may be around that point, but the speed that we do on mini roundabouts is purely dependent on the view that we have as we approach. If it's wide and open, we can just maintain a fairly decent speed. If it's a closed junction like this one, we know we're going to come up and stop at it. And again, because all the traffic is so close to one another, like our first picture, you just don't have the time that you would have on a normal roundabout. So it could be that you all turn up at the roundabout at the same time, and you have to figure out who's going to go. So you have to look at the other drivers. Are they looking? They should give way to the right, but it might mean that one of you has to take that decision to go. But if you did, you would do it slowly. So if the other person decided to go at the same time, you've got chance to deal with it. And as we mentioned in the other video clip, larger vehicles just can't get round them. So it may even mean that we have to stop before the white line of the mini roundabout to give the lorry or the bus enough room to actually get round it. Again, we wouldn't have to do that on a normal size roundabout. If we have a double mini roundabout, again, we just treat it as two separate roundabouts. So we would come up to the first roundabout, make sure there was nothing coming from the right, and then we would go round to the dotted white line, and again, just look to the right to see if it was clear to go. Then we could either follow our road ahead or turn left, whatever the option was we wanted to follow. So can you see with what we've done so far, how doing mini roundabouts and the principles on them are a lot different to a normal roundabout? So again, that's where we've got to be specific with what sort of roundabout we're going to do and what part of it we're going to cover. So that brings us to our final ones then, spiral roundabouts, or some people call them laned roundabouts. In reality, each roundabout, normal size roundabout we do has got lanes, but with the spiral roundabouts, they're more noticeable. So that's why sometimes people refer to them as that. Now, the way to deal with these is exactly the same as we would do a normal roundabout. The difference with these is it's a very big roundabout. So on a normal roundabout, you can see where your exit is to a degree, and you can then just choose the lane that you need. With these ones, they say, well, it's quite big. You can't really see where the exit is. So I tell you what, we'll do the lanes so that it will take you to where you need to go. So the key with a spiral roundabout is to follow the lane. So again, one of the keys to success is know what lane that you need before you get onto the roundabout. So look at the boards on the approach, look at the lane markings, what are they telling us? Then once you've chosen the lane, just stay in that lane wherever it goes, follow it, and it will take you to where you need to go. So we can see in our first example, the picture on the right, the left-hand lane says from this lane you can either go left or straight ahead. So if we're going straight ahead, we go across, follow that left lane just like we would on a normal roundabout, and it will take us to where we need to go. Here on approach, the middle lane says you can either go straight ahead or right. So you keep in the middle lane as you go across onto the roundabout. You stay between the white lines and you either go off at the second exit or you just follow that lane round and it takes you round to the right. So again, the key, just follow the lane wherever the lane goes and it will do the work for you. And in our final example, we see the right-hand lane says this lane will take you to the right. So as we would on a normal roundabout, we drive across towards the roundabout, we follow that right-hand lane, and again, as it opens and gets wider, we just stay between our white lines, we don't cross them, and it takes us exactly to where we need to go. So again, once you're in the lane, don't cross the white lines, just follow it round, and it will take you to the exit that you need. And the main difference with this roundabout, of course, is when it gets busy, potentially you're going to have 4 lanes of traffic all going round at the same time. But the whole key to it is just following your lane, not crossing the white line, and just taking your time with it. If it's a roundabout that you're not sure of, then just take your time, take it a bit slower. Just be aware of other cars may drift lanes. They might not be so sure of doing this roundabout themselves. And again, on roundabouts like this, we've got to look out for traffic lights. We've got to look out for traffic lights and yellow box junctions as well. And that determines whether we can actually go, even though the green light may be showing. So we hope our briefing on roundabouts has helped you understand the differences a bit more. Remember, although we've gone through everything, you would only pick the part that is applicable to your students and the lesson that you're focusing on. As we've said, the link for the briefing folder on roundabouts is in the description below, along with the full briefing folder. If this video has helped, please feel free to like, share and subscribe to keep up with the latest hints and tips for the ADI Part 3 and the ADI Standards Check Test. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. And also don't forget to check out all of our other videos for ADI Part 3 Standards Check Test and ADI Part 2 Driving Instructor Training videos. My name's Chris from Driver Training Limited. Remember, teach well, drive safely, and we'll see you all again in our next video.